Hey Tubesters, it's arenforestsong. I've missed y'all ever so much. I tried making this video a few minutes ago, but I didn't have my journal with me. Now, I think I showed y'all this before I went to boot camp. I talked to y'all about, I think I did anyway, about bringing a journal with some of my I guess you could say some quotes, words of power, my principles of belief, and like basically spiritual information to kind of help me through this during my journey of boot camp, as well as using it as a daily journal to catalog things that were going on, how I was feeling and all that. And it was the one and only time that I was pretty much successful at ever recording a journal daily. There are some that I left blank because I forgot to journal it, but overall I'd say about 97% of the daily journal entries were done. Now I will admit some of them were done like a day or two after the actual day, and so the entries might be a little short based on what I could remember. But for the most part, I did them the night on that day at nighttime, I think is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, so I did the military magic. I started that series back actually at boot camp after graduation. It was around when I got this phone. I talked to y'all about using a pendulum and how that's great to bring a pendulum, or it's a great form of divination to have whilst at boot camp, because you get to, I need to have some water, hold on. Because you get a keychain. You get what's it called? A ball chain, I think is what it's called. So it's that type of necklace that's metal. And you get that for your locker key to lock up your, oh gosh, what was it? Oh, I can't remember what it's called. NB drawer? A and B drawer. And I don't remember why it was called A and B actually. But in boot camp you get an A and B drawer, at least in the Navy. I don't know about other branches. And so you can have that on there, and then you're allowed one, it's one pendant of like personal or like spiritual significant value, and it has to be 1 inch in size. It can't be any bigger than 1 inch. And I believe I showed you my gray agate crystal pendant, which is what I brought there, and it helped me tremendously. I don't remember if I went over the gray agate properties of, yeah, I don't remember if I did that or not. That might be a different video for a different day. I know I need to go back into those crystal videos, like the one I did for Road to Crochet. Oh, by the cauldron fire. I want to get back into doing that. But unfortunately, YouTube, as I've told you before, decided to take away my live feature, and now there's this new stipulation. But I'm probably going to start doing those on Instagram, and I'm just gonna screen record them and then upload them on here, so that way if you're not an Instagram user, you can still get the content. And what's awesome is that you'll actually be able to read the comments as they're going on, so you'll be more included in the conversation. What's bad is that if you are watching and commenting during the live, there's no anonymity. People are going to see you on there, so because there's pros and cons to everything. Anyway, today I wanted to do, I don't believe I've done the Cartomancy one. Now, technically you're not allowed to bring, at least I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to bring playing cards. But whilst I was there, I actually took an index card, not an index card. I took a package of index cards and I cut them in half, and I made playing cards out of that. I do still have it. I just don't remember what, but I think it's in my bag of paperwork. But after I graduated, I grabbed the military version of playing cards, and the only thing that's really different about these is that they have green backs, and it's supposed to, what was it? Ideal for tactile environment, red lens, playable. I don't really know what that's supposed to mean. I just know that while you're on a ship, there's these red lights, and red lights are turned on to kind of make it more difficult to see the ship at nighttime. There's a whole thing. I won't get into it right now. But I bought these kind of because they're military grade playing cards. Yeah, that's pretty much why I got these. I think they did, oops, I think they did have the normal playing card ones. And as y'all, at least I think y'all know, I have regular playing cards back in Illinois, which I'm going to tomorrow, and I'm gonna try and do a witchy vlog while I'm there. It's kind of hard to do witchy vlogs here, but when I get more in the groove, I'll be able to do that. I'm gonna try and at least do one witchy vlog. I'm also hoping to maybe see some toads. I don't know, it might be too hot for them. They might already be, you know, going away or getting dehydrated naturally. It's gonna be good to kind of, it's bittersweet because of why I have to go there to deal with this stuff and everything, and also some of the people I'm gonna be seeing, not just my mom. Though I will say that the conversations we've been having on Messenger have been pretty not uplifting, what's the word? They've been polite, but they've also been kind of short talk and just kind of updates every now and then, whereas I'm actually going to try something. I was thinking about not telling y'all because of it not being taken well, but you know, I trust y'all. Y'all are family to me. But I'm actually going to be staying in the house again for a little bit, just during that time. I'm only going to be there for, let's see, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow's Friday, so I'm going to be getting in. I'm trying to think, do I get there on Friday or do I get there on Saturday? I think it's Friday night. Yeah, it's Friday night that I get in there, and then I'm leaving Wednesday morning, early Wednesday morning, and I'm going to be back here Wednesday morning. So what's that? That's Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yes, that's not even a full week. And just to kind of see what it's like, because there's been distance, there's been room and time for growth, and just to see what's going on. Plus, Kuan Yin has a little bit of an assertive side and kind of has forced circumstances to happen that way. Due to finances that I've had to deal with and stuff like that. Like, I know that I shared with y'all about retail therapy, but it wasn't only retail therapy. It was also, I need more clothes because I don't have enough clothes to wear for the week, especially like bottoms. And unfortunately, clothes here are a little more expensive than Pensacola. They actually weren't too bad, actually. Considering they were actually pretty normal price. I'm just used to cheap clothes, so yeah. But anyway, that's kind of a quick update. So I like this little glow that I have. I think I'm starting to tan while I'm here. Anyway, so I want to come on here and share with y'all all of my Cartomancy information that I brought with me on boot camp. This isn't necessarily, I'm also going to be sharing with you some spread ideas that I did with this, with the cards, playing cards. And I actually did write down the websites, or at least one. I think it's just one. Hold on. Yeah, oh wait, no, here's another one. Okay, so it looks like it's 2 websites. So actually, I won't tell you the websites because that's going to be crazy to read. I'll just put it in the description box below. Oh, it's 3 websites. There's another one. Okay. Yes, so I've got spreads. I've got like a little chart that I copied from one website about timing events and stuff like that. And what's this? Oh yeah, there was one thing that I was copying down in regards to like shuffling and cutting, and like how it determines, like when you're doing a reading for someone else, how they shuffle and cut. And I found some zodiac traits and personalities that I felt could really tie in with this, but unfortunately I don't have those, so I'll make that a separate video. Maybe I'll do a video talking more in depth about playing card divination, and I'll include that there, because this was just kind of like quick research, but it is pretty much my basics for cartomancy, at least with playing card divination, I mean. So I already showed you the cards that I got. It's pretty basic, nothing really to it. One reason why I wanted to get these is because of the Joker. In my deck back at the house, I don't have my Jokers, because I threw them away. What I don't like about this deck is how they're both black and white. I really was hoping that one would be, normally one's black and white and the other one's color. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case with this one. I think I will buy one more playing card deck. Probably one of those like bicycle ones that are kind of fancy looking. I have also found like a vintage pumpkin playing card deck, which I think is pretty cool, and if it's available, I might try and get that. So that's in the works for the near future. Yeah, and the reason why I was hoping for it to be different is because there is something that I wrote down about Jokers, and I'm trying to remember what it is. Okay, yeah, so one Joker, so it's kind of like some history of the playing cards. Yeah, and so Jokers can be, let me just read the information as I have it. So what I'm going to be reading right here is my, kind of my pre-notes, I guess you could say, of cartomancy before we start getting into the suits and all of that. So during the time it's gotten a little ripped up. Somehow the back got ripped, not front. I don't know how that worked, but it did. So my first little notation is when you add all the number values of each card, you get 364. So that's the, so basically the number values are 1 is ace, then you got 2 through 10, and then jack is 11, and then queen is 12, 13 for king. Excuse me. And you add all those numbers together. So basically you could, basically you add all those numbers up 4 times because of the 4 suits, and then you get 364. You add 1 Joker to get to 365, and then when you have a leap year, you use the other Joker, or you can use it as a calling card. So one way that I'd like to do that is the black and white Joker would be the card for the 365 days, and then the colored Joker would be the calling card or the leap year, just because it's special out of the rest of them, especially if it's like a normal deck that's just black and red. And then this one, typically the colored Joker looks a little bit like the king and queen, the court cards. It can have that like yellow, red, and blue and black in it, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. Does this deck have that? Yeah. What's really cool is that those are the colors for the Native American medicine wheel. At least I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive. Or is it, oh wait, no, I think it's white. I know black and red is, it might not be blue. Anyway, you can still correlate those with the 4 elements, you know, red for fire, blue for water, black for earth, and yellow for air. And then you could have white be spirit, or alter it any way you see fit. That's a little side note. But yeah, so another thing you can use that color joker, or even the other one, is as a calling card. Let's skip over to what a calling card is, because I don't remember off the top of my head. Ever since I got to A school, I took a break from the whole like Cartomancy. I call it Cartomancy for playing card divination, and then just Tarot and Oracle. But technically, Cartomancy includes Tarot and Oracle. But I just don't. I don't include it. Calling card. I don't seem to have a note in here stating what a calling card is. Calling card. I don't know. Oh. Okay, so I think a calling card, it's a very weird way to put it. It seems like the calling card is the same thing as a significator. I don't know if I was just like straightforward copying it from the website, or if I just like got an intuitive renaming, but it's pretty much a significator, because it's only the court cards that are, well, it's court cards and a joker that you can use as a calling card. And that's what's really great about, especially using the colored one, because it kind of stands out from the rest. So just pretend this one's colored, like the colors that the joker will typically have. So this way it doesn't take away from any cards that you can pull from the deck. Whereas if you're taking one of the court cards, that's one less card that you'll actually be able to pull from the deck. I think I do have one joker in the other deck at home. I'm not positive. Anyway, so that's that. Then moving on, it says there are 52 cards in a deck to represent the 52 weeks in a year. There are 13 cards in each suit to represent the 13 weeks in each season. You could also say that it represents the 13 moons. Typically, though, they say that it represents the 13 weeks per season. There are 10 pip cards to represent the 10 planets. These are not the classical planets, because the classical planets would be 7. This is the 8 planets and 2 luminaries. Technically, the sun and the moon, in classical times, they were considered planets, but technically they're considered luminaries, and then the other ones are planets. So this would be Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. I almost couldn't read that for a second there. There are 4 suits in a deck to represent the 4 seasons, as well as the 4 elements. There are 3 court cards in each suit to represent the 3 zodiac signs in each element, and 3 months per season. Okay, I want to make sure I read that right. There are 2 colors for the suits to represent the dark and light halves of the year. So I should have prefaced this, but I've actually changed the way that I work with the colors of the deck. So there's red and black, right? So typically black is supposed to mean no and red is supposed to mean yes. However, in my practice, I don't work with it that way. The reason why they did that is because black, this was, I think, a Western ideology. Wow, my skin looks really good in this camera. I just realized that. Squirrel. So black is supposed to be like death, and it's bad, it's unpleasant, don't like it. So kind of like the whole no, people don't like to hear no. Ain't that the truth? Sorry, I got sidetracked and remembered something that happened a couple weeks ago. Anyway, and then red's supposed to be like the blood giving life, and that's a positive thing. Everyone likes it, so it's yes. That just seemed a little too, to put simply, I just didn't resonate with it. And so with me, I see red kind of more as like the stop sign for like stopping. Even magically, I use it for offensive protection, which would be assertive and or aggressive, and very projective and forceful warrior-like, to stop unpleasantries from happening. So that's why I use it for no and black. Y'all know I use it as, I use it for a lot of things, but one thing that I use it is to, for receptive and manifesting, like, type of working. So I see that as a yes, as something conjuring and as affirming into my life. And so that's the little switcheroonie that I have done here. And there's also some changes with the suits that I've done, and I will try to explain them if I can remember why, because I didn't actually write why, but I think I remember why for some of them. So if you do research on them and you're getting the correspondences for the suits and you're seeing dramatic changes, first of all, you'll find, if you do extensive research, you'll actually find, I think, up to 3 or 4 different correspondency charts when it comes to them, not just because of different countries like France and I think Germany and England and all that, but just because like people corresponding different things to it, if that makes any sense. So mine is a little different from what you'll find on there. It's kind of like a mixing match of all of it. Yeah, I can. So it seems, I think typically the air was corresponding to diamonds, but the way that I do it, actually I'll just read them. So I have diamonds. So let's pull up the aces real quick. Where's the clubs? Oh, okay. I couldn't find the ace of clubs. I thought I lost. I was gonna be so mad. So, ooh, spilling the cards everywhere. Okay, another thing I want to let you know is that I don't actually, I know I just did now, but I don't actually call this clubs. I call this trefoils because I just prefer calling it that way. Okay. So, starting off with diamonds, I correspond this to spring. Oh, also I want to inform you. So you know how typically spring is youth, beginnings, and element of air and all that stuff. I don't actually bring that with the card readings. I read playing cards completely different. I don't have even a similar correspondency when including like the elements or the seasons or anything like that. It's going to sound very out of place and different. I just wanted to let you know about that beforehand. This is because, to a certain extent, I do have chaos magic embedded in my practice. So I wanted to kind of just let you know that before I carried on. Anyway, so I'm just going to read you the correspondences that I have pertaining to this. And there are anything from the season to the element to the physical descriptions of person to the stage of life of a person, the social class, the personality type, as well as just areas of life, I guess you could call the last part. So diamonds is all about spring, childhood, earth, element of earth, blonde with blue or gray eyes, merchants, ambitious, businesslike, impatient, and outgoing, business in general, money and material matters. Okay, so the red suits obviously symbolize the light half of the year. And so hearts is summer, adolescence, element of fire, red-haired with hazel or green eyes. Clergy, so that would be, not nobles, but it would be basically like religious people. or even like the higher up. It could probably even include the political groups nowadays. Yeah. Instinctive and intuitive, cheerful and friendly, romance, emotions, and close relationships. Trefoils is autumn, adulthood, air, element of air, brunette with light brown eyes, peasants, so this could also be like blue collar, or it even include like the homeless if you wanted to just drop them in there. Shy and helpful type of personalities, creativity, diligence, rewards, and recognition. And then we have the spades as winter, elderhood, you could also call it sagehood or like old age if that's more what you desire to call it. Element of water, black-haired or raven-haired, with dark brown eyes, nobility. This could include celebrities and even like the higher government, like presidents and stuff like that. Cool and logical. Inner self is of importance. That's the type of mentality or personality that comes with it. Unexpected change, transformation, and forewarning of loss and obstacles. So, yeah, so that's basically the suits and how I work with them. That's kind of what I go for. Then going into the court cards, these represent the players. So these can be people, including yourself, who play a role in your life, and or represent each of the 12 zodiac signs, and or can represent one calling card. So that's kind of how I'll work with the court cards in this place, so they can represent you. They can also represent others coming in and out of your life, and they can also like I said, represent, you can use them as a calling card if you want to, based on the zodiac signs attributed to them. What else did I want to say with the court cards? I think that's it. Oh, let me pull those out, and I want to get the court cards. I should have done this beforehand, but I didn't think that I would want to show you the cards, but I think it makes it much easier to follow when you have something to kind of, like a visual aid, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I have the suits, the aces back out, so that way I can show y'all those. And when I'm talking about the zodiac signs, and then when I go into the specific court cards, I brought the court cards out. Actually, I want to put these together in accordance to the court cards. There we go. Okay, so, going in order of diamonds, hearts, trefoils, and, oh, I wrote clubs. I meant to put spades. So, like I said earlier, diamonds is connected to earth. Oh, I forgot to tell you why. So the reason why I connect diamonds to earth is because I kind of see them as like seeds. They kind of make me think about seeds. And nuts and all that, so things of planting and springing up out of the earth, it's kind of obvious. The only thing I think that I haven't changed much was the whole, actually I did change the elemental correspondency, because they actually correspond water with this, but then they would correspond summer, and it just got really confusing. It didn't seem very cohesive, so that's why I kind of made my own correspondencies. But this is kind of obvious. For me, well, to me, this is more of a passionate emotions. I think they were talking about emotions in general, but I kind of feel that that makes it kind of limited. I kind of feel that, I don't know, I just feel that, I don't know, I just feel that with this, first of all, the red cards are supposed to be the light half of the year, and typically the light half of the year is corresponding to masculine chi. That's why spring is connected to air, which is a masculine element. Summer is connected to fire. Okay, and so I kind of wanted to keep those within this. And water is connected to autumn, which is within the dark half of the year. And now you can start to see why I had to make some changes, or desired to make some changes in my correspondences with the suits. So anyway, however, I don't actually follow the typical spring, air, and all that. The only thing that follows suit is, no pun intended, is the whole summer and fire. Everything else kind of got switched around. So we got the Earth. Now, this is going into the zodiac signs. So Earth signs are Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus. And then Hearts was fire, so that's Sagittarius, Aries, and Leo. And then Trefoil is connected to air, so this is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. So the reason why I connected this to autumn is because it made me think of a leaf. And I thought about the leaves blowing in the wind and how the wind picks up during the autumn time. So I do technically work with water as the element for autumn, but this is kind of where I deviate from all those things and kind of do, I guess you could say, a chaos magic approach, or at least mentality. So then spades is element of water. I've actually pondered using the element of water, or corresponding element of water, with the season of winter before, just because fun fact, the seasons and the elements, I'm corresponding them in accordance to the suits. I've actually, early on in my practice, I actually considered doing it and making it a permanent thing in my day-to-day practice, but I found that it wasn't cohesive with all of the correspondences I wanted to integrate together. Things like the moon phases and the sun phases, I just felt it started to get a little, and then the stages of life, I just found that it wasn't very cohesive. So I ended up keeping a lot of the traditional correspondences and finding truth in them and seeing that they actually did relate and work for me. But I actually at one point wanted to work with the elements / seasons in this order and way before, because of the earth being alive during the springtime, so element of earth seemed more appropriate. The wind picking up during the autumn, and so that'd be more appropriate for air. And the water being frozen and during winter, and getting so emotional and moody during the winter, it seemed appropriate at the time. But then I found truth in the traditional correspondences, and that it went beyond just that. Whereas the correspondences in this way are great for cartomancy, but they kind of, at least I don't find them to be able to be, I don't feel you can really delve and expand them as you can with the traditional correspondences. Anyway, I went off a tangent long enough. So now I'm gonna go into the court cards specifically. So the first one is Jack. Now these court cards, Jack, Queen, and King, correspond to the types of zodiac signs. So I just told you what the zodiac signs were in accordance to organizing them with the elements. Now I'm going to share them in accordance to, what would you call it? That gets their type? I can't really think what it's called. But anyway, there's mutable, cardinal, and fixed, and these are the other, this is the second way of organizing them. And so, this is a way that I like to organize the signs, because it makes it easier to pinpoint them. I don't actually follow the traditional zodiac correspondences for the playing cards or any of the court cards that they make, just because I don't resonate with it. So I already told you diamonds to earth and what the earth signs were, etc., etc. So jacks are connected to the mutable signs, and I basically have also corresponded mutable, cardinal, and fixed with elements of their own. And so I consider mutable signs to be water-esque, cardinal signs to be fire-esque, and fixed signs to be earth-esque, or like. My throat's so dry all of a sudden. Okay, and the reason why is mutable signs are flexible, adaptable, they're able to be adjustable, and they vary a lot, and there's always this constant state of change. So these are Virgo, so in accordance to earth, fire, air, and water, the signs would be Virgo, Sagittarius, Gemini, and Pisces. Okay, so if you're trying to like remember off the top of the hand, if you remember what your mutable, cardinal, and fixed signs are, and if you remember the elements, the elemental correspondences towards the suits, you pair, that was wrong. If you remember the elemental correspondences to the suits, and then the type of zodiac sign, and how it corresponds to the court card, aka mutable to jack, cardinal to queen, fixed to king, and earth to diamonds, fire to hearts, air to trefoils, and water to spades. If you remember that basics, and then you know how to piece it together with the zodiac signs, verbalizing it sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. Y'all know that I'm not good at explaining things. But if you're able to do that, it makes it easier to just pinpoint that this, okay, diamonds is earth. All the earth signs are Virgo, Capricorn, and Taurus. This is jack, so jack is mutable. So what's the mutable sign of those three earth signs? That's Virgo. So automatically you know that this is a Virgo person. And you would just do that with the rest of them in accordance to their suit / element and their court card / type of zodiac sign. And so that's one way of working with them. So I'll go on to talking about the cardinal zodiac signs, and then I'll do the fixed ones. And then I'm going to go back to Jack and talk about another way that you can work with the court cards. So, so here are all the court cards for the queens. This is cardinal. Again, I associate that with fire, and it's going to make sense of why I associate it in a minute. So these are forward, direct, makes things happen, initiates movement. Excuse me. So these would be Capricorn, Aries, Libra, and Cancer, excuse me. Scorpio is a fixed sign. Good to know. Yeah, so as you can tell, the reason why I attributed fire with the queen, even though the queen is feminine, is because the queen in Cartomancy, whether it's tarot or not, is always very action-based, whereas the king has this very traditional and fixed viewpoint on how things are done. There's this sternness that comes with the king a lot of the times. Even if the king is a little jovial or playful, it still has that stern side. And so that to me really corresponds to the firmness of the earth and being a fixed zodiac sign. So moving forward, we go with the kings as the fixed zodiac signs, which is consolidating, solidifying, stabilizing, stagnant, and concentrated. So this would be Taurus, this would be Leo, this would be Aquarius, and this would be Scorpio. So now going back to them, there's another way that you can correspond them, the court cards that is, and that's with appearance, Oh, I also forgot to tell you that you can correspond them to the months. I'm trying to... Okay, so the months that I correspond them to, this is gonna seem a little contradictory, but this is, again, remember there's a chaos magic approach to this where it's like it's malleable for contradictions. It's just kind of being a fluid practice. Not necessarily wishy-washy, but just fluid. So I will actually read the zodiac signs that correspond to the different types of jacks again, as well as the like hair and eye descriptions, as well as the month. Now, the months are not going to correspond with, I don't think they will anyway. Most of them won't, if not any of them. They're not going to correspond to the zodiac sign and the time frame that the zodiac sign happens. Now, these are done in accordance to the order of the court cards. So Jack is first, then it's Queen, then it's King. And then remembering the suits were also connected to the seasons, helps determine what month they are. So, for example, when it comes to diamonds, each season is broken up into 3 months. And I do it from the equinox or solstice. So whatever month that is in, so that would be March, which is the beginning of spring. And so the beginning court card is Jack, and so this would correspond to March, then following suit, April, and then May. And so I hope that kind of made sense. And you would do the same in accordance to the seasons so summer is for the hearts, so that would be June, July, August, following the same order of Jack, Queen, King. So the Jack of Hearts would be June, Queen of Hearts would be July, August would be for the King of Hearts. And then September, October, November would go to trefoils because of autumn, and following the suit of the order of the court cards, Jack, Queen, King, so on and so forth. So I'm going to read it with you, how I have it written in here. Jacks are connected to when you're going in an age-like description. So this is kind of like if you're trying to define the cards and figure out the age of the type of person. If a court card happens to come up in a reading and it's signifying someone else coming in or out of your life, then you could try and define it, intuit it by figuring out, okay, is this, like, are we going to read it through the age group? Are we going to read it through physical descriptions? Is it a zodiac sign type of person? Or you could even read it as, like, what month someone is going to come in and out of your life. And you might need a pendulum for this if you're not good at using intuition, like, in a mental way. So anyway, moving on, Jacks are all connected to youth. So this would be male or female. This is everyone basically below 40. And where's the diamonds? Okay, so diamonds, if you remember the correspondences, I did actually share the physical attributes to the suits. So that's why I did the suits first, and because all of those were reused in the readings of the court cards. Okay. So diamonds is blonde with blue or gray eyes. This is someone who's a Virgo, and I told you how you figure out what zodiac sign is attributed to the card already. Diamond's Earth. Virgo is an Earth sign. Virgo is a mutable Earth sign. Jacks are all attributed to the mutable zodiac signs. And then the month would be March, because March is the first spring month. Jack is the first court card. And then the Jack of Hearts is a red-haired with hazel or green eyes. Again, that's just pulling from the red-haired individuals with hazel green eyes in accordance to the suit of hearts. All heart cards have that, will all have that possible symbology. The only difference is the Jack is symbolizing someone, a youth, male or female, that's under 40. So now again, you can kind of see how it's piecing all together. Brunette with light brown eyes, Gemini. Oh, I forgot to tell you, Sagittarius, month of June. Gemini, month of September. Told you the physical attributes. Again, under 40, youth, male or female. Under 40, male, female youth is raven-haired with dark brown eyes, and Pisces, or Pisces, or December. Well, I guess it wouldn't be or if it was taking Pisces, but you know what I mean. Moving on to the queens, we have, this is females only, give or take, if you want to, so it can be a actual woman, that didn't come out right, a biological woman, or a transsexual / transgender woman. I don't really know the difference between the two just yet, but it can be read that way. It's basically someone who is feminine in nature, whether born as such or transformed into one. And so again, it's a diamond, so it's blonde with blue or gray eyes, and this is connected to Capricorn and the month of April. Oops. Then we have Queen of Hearts. That's obviously red hair with hazel or green eyes. Aries, month of July. Brunette with dark brown eyes. Oh, excuse me, light brown eyes. Month of October. Zodiac sign would be Libra. Zodiac sign would be Cancer. Month is January. This is actually, so this is my month card, but when they're doing Cartomancy in another type of way, if you look up Cartomancy, you'll find a non-divination form of Cartomancy, and it's really cool. It talks about, it lays all the cards out in accordance to, like, the days of the year, so like month and day of the month. And when you do it that way, my card's actually 10 of spades, and it goes into, it's almost like numerology where you get the whole life path numbers and all that, but it's done with the playing cards. It's really cool. I think it's called the Cards of Life or something like that. Then you have King of Diamonds, blonde, blue or gray eyes, male, biologically or transformed. It would be a blonde with blue or gray eyes, or Taurus, or month of May. Red-haired, hazel green, Leo or August. Brunette, light eyes with who can be Aquarius, or month of November. Month of February, a Scorpio, or a raven-haired man with dark brown eyes. Whew, okay. And so then I have some more notation here that says, look at the traits and personalities for each sign as well as for a man and a woman for in-depth meaning. So like, again, that kind of goes into that intuition that I was talking about earlier, figuring out how is this court card presenting itself in the reading. If a court card pops up in a spread, first read it as so it's describing a person for this is usually how it is. However, when and if you're called to, read it as you would a calling card, aka significator. Do I go into depth about calling cards? Oh, so a calling card is a significator, so it would be applying to you. So if you're reading it as a person, that's in the ideology that they're coming in and out of your life. It's someone outside of you. If you're reading it as a calling card, this is talking about you maybe changing in some way. Moving on, we go into the pips. So now I'm going to try and organize these in accordance to the numbers. Just so it while I'm reading them to you, it makes a little more sense, and I can just pull up the card that corresponds to what it is I'm talking about. Oh, that's right, I need my aces again. Alright, so diamonds, hearts, trefoil, spades. Diamonds, hearts, trefoil, spades. So these, as I said earlier, the pips correspond to the, remember when I was talking to you, when I was reading the kind of prerequisite type of notes in, earlier in this video, and I said that the pip cards correspond to the 10 planets. So that's where this part's going to come into play, as well as some... Okay, if you're doing research on Cartomancy, you'll find charts that say, like, one means death or whatever, and stuff like that. I don't really use those, and I think I found 2 to 3 varying charts that talk about the meanings of the playing cards, and then those just get really confusing because, like, you have to memorize them, and it's just way too much. Whereas if you remember things in chunks of symbology, it's easier to apply it and do the reading. So all ace cards have the potential of symbolizing the sun, and if you're reading it in a planetary way, there is, it's not actually talking about the planet, though it could talk about, if you're doing like an astrological reading, and you get these cards pulling up, you can read, especially if you get pip cards and court cards, the court cards corresponding to zodiac signs, like, let's say you get a 2 and a jack, a jack of diamonds. Jack of diamonds is the Virgo card, so this is the moon in Virgo. The all 2s correspond to the moon planet. So you can get stuff like that and getting that type of reading. Like, if you want to do a reading for when you should do a certain spell or whatever, you can do things like that. If you want to read it in, like, the astrological planetary way. If you're reading them planets as representing something else, then this is what you could go on to say. So the sun represents ego, sense of self, and conscious will. Ones are about, so like the ace is 1, so this is about beginnings, desires, importance of ego / self, and altruism. If focus is turned to the one and all. So it's about altruism if the focus is turned on the one or the all. If it's me, one, then it's more about ego and self. If it's about collective one, then it's altruism. So 2, as I said, is the moon. So this is hidden emotions, creativity, and intuition. 2, so now focusing on the number portion, is about union, cooperation, companionship, meetings, contracts, conflicts, and fears. So it kind of plays on the pleasant and unpleasant trees of the number. And what I like about this is that you really have to use your intuition because there isn't any real reversals that you can do with playing cards. So 3 is Mercury, communication, commerce, and study. 3, the number 3 is about faith, growth, creativity, confusion, opportunities, uncertainty, and trust the process / yourself. So as you can see, there's two ways of getting creativity in a reading. You can get it through the 2 as a moon card or the 3 as the number card. So you can get it as Pip as a planetary reading or as a numerological reading. So moving on to 4, it's Venus. We can read this as affection, romantic love, and the performing arts. Again, this can kind of tap into that creativity. So what's also something that I did not say is that I work with 10 chakras. So 10 chakras, you could also correspond these if you're trying to do like a chakra reading. If you correspond the planets to the chakras, then you can work with them that way as well. 4 is also about satisfaction, structure, servitude, good fortune, complacent, lazy, stubborn, and bored. 5 is connected to Mars, which is all about aggression, authority, and sexual desire. You can also even say assertion. 5 is about challenge, change, restlessness, fluctuations, travel, freedom, action, and variety. Moving on to 6, planetarily speaking, it's Jupiter, which is also good fortune. So we have the numerological reading of 4 being good fortune, and then we have the planetary reading of Jupiter being good fortune, abundance, and spirituality. Numerology, it's about adjustments, reevaluation, reflection, karma, which so it could be like karmic debt, paid or collected, nostalgia, and enshadowments. 7 is connected to Saturn, which is discipline, restriction, and karma. And then numerologically, it's about finding victory, letting go of your expectation, especially like the need for it, worry, stress, coveting or jealousy, gossip, and possible violence. 8 is Uranus, which is freedom, change, and upheaval. Again, that kind of connects to the numerological reading of 5. Numerologically, it's about power, strength, control, will, work, and gains made because of work. Force, bossy, conquer, and destroy. Again, we're touching into that victory that was talked about earlier, and also the Mars. So it's lots of ways that you can get profound readings by reading the cards in different ways. So if you're getting like a 5 and a 7 and an 8, I would read that as the whole assertive or aggressive warrior, victory, success, authoritarian type of reading, because you have all of those possible ways of it being read. What was I saying? Oh yeah, 9. Neptune, perception, illusions, and imagination. Numerologically, it's loss, endings, surrender, dislikes, disappointment, success, achievement, fulfillment, and when one door closes, another one will open, and transformation. Now 9 and 10 are, I read them very differently. Typically 10 is read as transformation, stuff like that, or even like a completion. I see 9 more as completion. 10 is Pluto, destruction, which is, so Pluto is destruction, transformation, and rebirth. Whereas 9 numerologically is transformation, Pluto is transformation. Numerologically, it's new beginnings, new desires, letting go to move forward, possible inflated ego or sense of self, and caught up in pride. And that's because 10 is seen as exalted 1, so we kind of have some of those 1 being amplified by 0. And if you ever done like numerology readings, especially working with, I usually work with the angel number meaning that come on Sacred Scribes. It's a blog post, and there they say how 0 is an amplifying type of number and how it's all about the potential. So now going into the spreads, hopefully this doesn't count out on me. If it does, I'll do a part 2. So the spreads, I have the YN WW, which is called Yay, Nay, Whichever Way. This kind of helps give an answer. It's a little bit more than just yes or no. It kind of is a clarifier, giving direction type of answering with the cards. So you shuffle 9 times, think of your question, and then you cast 3 cards, one for the mind, one for the body, one for the soul, which are in turmoil, and it's supposed to represent the turmoil that you are within this question and not knowing what to do about the situation at hand. Each will answer the question, is this ideal for my mind or my body or my soul? And then you get the separate answers for your mind, body, and soul. Is this situation or this thing that I want to do or whatever that I'm asking about, is this good for my mind? Is this good for my body? Is this good for my soul? And each card will answer yay or nay or whatever. And then you read them again collectively to get your final answer of whether or not you should accept it, go with it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and so then you determine the result with the following system. Now this is, remember when I said that the black suits were seen, I mentioned earlier how I see black as affirmative, red as negative, and how it's traditionally read the opposite. This is where you pull into that for those yes or no readings. And typically yes or no readings are done with 1 card pull, and then that 1 card will do it. But I feel that this gives you more variety and more accuracy in the answers. So there's 4 potential answers that you can get with doing this reading. You can get all 3 black cards, which depending on whether or not you agree with my way of reading black or red cards, would all 3 black cards signify definitely, which basically means it's a hell yes. 2 black cards with 1 red card means it's a most likely. 2 red cards with 1 black card means it's most likely not, and 3 red cards would be definitely not, which basically means fuck no. So that's, or you can reverse the colors in accordance to the meanings that you see fit. But I really like doing it this way because if you use an even number of cards, you run the risk of it being like middle ground, I don't know type of responses. Whereas this, you're always going to get a definite answer. Well, you won't get a definite answer, but you'll get either a definite answer like definitely or definitely not, or you'll get like a swaying answer. So like something like it's most likely good for you or most likely not, which kind of puts accuracy in how something could be answered because of the potential of free will and things changing in accordance to everyone's free will, and their input to the situation can change the situation. I hope that made sense. I feel like I just talked in circles. Anyway, the other way to read, the other type of spread is what I call the 4 pillars. So this is, you shuffle 9 times. I like to do 9 shuffles. When it comes to playing cards, I don't separate them and reverse one side because there are no reversals in playing cards. But when I'm doing like tarot, I do 3 normal shuffles where you split the deck in half and then spread, shuffle, and then I do it 3 where I separate the deck, flip the right side over, and then do that for reversals, and then I separate the deck again and do like the vertical shuffling. When I'm doing it with playing cards, I just do normal shuffling, blah, 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 9 times. Oracle cards I actually do differently. I shuffle like this and let the cards fall out on their own. Another little fun fact. So the 4 pillars, again, you think of your question, shuffle 9 times, cut the deck into 4 equal stacks before the seeker. I'm trying to remember, I think it's also called querent or querent. I don't actually know how to pronounce that word. I don't use that word. I've always learned it as seeker. So that's why I call it that. Querent just sounds so sterile and impersonal. You could also call it the Fool, especially if you're working with tarot. So the person who's questioning, who's taking a chance, who's ignorant about what to do, etc., etc. A lot of people, especially in modern times, don't like to use that term because they feel it's insulting because we're overly sensitive. And I'm not even going to get into that conversation any more than I already have. Moving on, you would cast the top card of each stack. You would, so the top card would be flipped over on the side, not this way, because then, well, actually, I just do that as a standard rule. That way, when you're working with a deck that you can do reversals on, you don't change what the actual card would have been if you flipped it over correctly, so to speak. Some people think that flipping it this way can still be accurate. I don't think so. That's just me. Anyway, so the first one, let me just create stacks. Oh wait, you won't be able to see it. Anyway, so the first stack and card that's flipped up would be spiritual. This would be your motivation for asking the question. Second stack / second card would be, is called being. So you know how like there's titles for the positions in a spread? That's what these are. So the first one's answering your motivation for asking the question. The second one's called being. This is where you are now. And then the third stack / card is destiny, where things are going currently. So there is a little difference. Where things are now is kind of like a stagnant type of thing. Hold on, let me there we go. So where things are, where do they stand now? Where things are going currently is referring to the being section. So this is talking about where they're likely to go. So if there's going to be like a little riff or a problem or something. And then the final fourth stack / card is your outcome. This is where it's going to end result, so to speak. And technically life never does an end result. But if you, there are time gaps, if you know what I mean. If you break up time, just like there's sections, ebbs and flows of life, and that's kind of what I'm referring to when I say outcome. So like when this scene in your life, so to speak, plays or plays out and finishes, when that scene is over and it's time for the next scene or the next stage of life or whatever, that's what the outcome is referring to. Like when that whole situation is over and done with, that's the outcome. The next one is the fan. So you shuffle again 9 times. Think of your question, spread the cards out like a fan. This is what a lot of people will do. They just will spread it out on a table, and then they choose 5 cards that call out to you. This is when you get not playing card apps, like tarot reading apps, when you want to do it that way. That's kind of how they do it. So they just randomly pick it out as you're drawn to it. And then if you need to pull 2 clarifiers, but don't exceed 2 drawings. So that means you have 5 cards, right? Whoops, that's 10. You have 5 initial cards that you pull for the reading. You pull 2 clarifiers. Now you have 7. So basically 2 drawings means 2 rounds of pulling 2 clarifiers. So that's 1 round of 2 clarifiers to help support the reading, and then you do another 2 if the first 2 weren't good enough, and then that brings 9. 9 again symbolically for transformation and cleaning and endings. So that's like the end of the whole reading. That should be more than enough to kind of read it. Plus you don't want to get too high in there because then it starts to get confusing. Getting all these cards can get intimidating. So that's kind of why I put that there. And the fourth spread is called the triad. 9 times shuffling, think of question, cast 3 cards, which are read like a flowing story as of beginning, middle, and end. So this would be kind of like what some people call as reading, telling the story of the spread. And so instead of reading each card individually, you read it collectively. And I've done this a few times. I actually just did this with a spread that I did with Kuan Yin. I was trying to get answers and guidance from her, so I did a tarot spread. I used the tarot to help answer the question, and I read it in a story format. And also when I do my wisdom for the week, which has been a while, I've kind of, fallen out of practice of that. But when I do my wisdom for the week, I will read it the same way. So it will be, so it's three tarot cards, 3 oracle cards. And so they're read, the first card's for Sunday, Monday, second card is for Tuesday through Thursday, third card is for Friday and Saturday. And so I read it as the message is the tarot card, or the archetype, the theme of those days, and then the guidance is coming from the oracle of how to address the theme. But I'll like write it when I'm writing down my notes, and the way I'm reading the cards, I'll kind of like flow the 2 messages together. So that's kind of what you're going for this triad spread. Again, it goes into pulling clarifiers, and this time it's exceeding, don't exceed 7. And I think it's more just like, if you need to pull clarifiers more than twice, then you should probably redo the spread or work on your card reading abilities. Because usually, even back in the beginning of my card reading days, the cards are usually pretty direct. You know, I know that there's these memes out there about the cards just kind of beating around the bush, but I've never personally experienced that. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying I haven't. And so if you just keep pulling clarifiers, it's going to get more overwhelming because you're going to have more cards to read. And I don't usually like to do the whole 1 clarifier card. Most people do. I prefer doing 2 clarifiers because sometimes I do it for like spiritual and physical, or things like it can be like emotional and mental, or things like environmental and spiritual, I think. Or so it can be like the way that I kind of work with them. The clarifiers can kind of be like support cards, and kind of where that support comes from. So that's one way that you can read clarifiers depending on your spread. So that's why I like to pull 2 at a time. Now we're going to go specifically into describing clarifiers. These are additional cards, always 2, to symbolize balance and both sides of the brain. That's another reason. That's actually, I don't know why I didn't think about this, but that's actually the main reason why I pull 2 clarifiers. However, you can go up to 2 drawings, which means a total of 4 clarifiers. This symbolizes stability and the 4 brain waves. I did forget about that. That's actually, I'm so glad I'm reading this. I kind of forgot about that. So yeah, there's 4 brain waves: alpha, beta, delta, and theta. And so since we're working with the brain in the reading, that's kind of why we're using brain symbology with the numbers. The reason to not exceed this is because the reading will become cumbersome and confusing. That's why with larger spreads, you don't usually draw clarifiers, because it would be too much. Also with larger spreads, there's usually, with the positions of the card, they're asking so many questions and or addressing so many avenues of the topic at hand that it usually covers all the bases, so you don't need clarifiers. Also, the more cards you have, the easier it is to read, or should be. And I kind of already explained that. However, at a certain point, as I mentioned earlier, it becomes too much. If the reader doesn't understand the spread, it's most likely because the spread is too advanced. The reader is not knowledgeable enough. The reader is tired. The reader the reader doesn't connect with the card/spread. The question wasn't appropriate or clear, or it's not something the cards can answer. Sometimes you need to use different forms of divination for different types of situations and questions. Sometimes a spirit board is more appropriate, so that way you can spell out messages to get more specific types of responses, rather than using a pendulum gives you limited answers because you get yay, no, or maybe, or things like that. And cards, they're general and archetypes and symbology, so it's also still limited. But when you have something that gives you a writing system, you can actually spell things out, which can be direct messages or can symbolize things, and that you use your intuition that way for, and it just gives you more potential to work with. That's why whenever I'm working with my spirit guides, I always use a spirit board. Just because they're a spiritual being, especially the human types of spirit guides, I just like to work with them better. It's just much more quick, effective communication that way. I mean, you can use your cards, but I just find it easier to use a spirit board. Sometimes it can even be that the seeker isn't, oh, I think I was getting tired when I wrote this because I wrote it wrong. I wrote a typo. Sometimes it can even be that the seeker isn't ready to hear the answer, so a spiritual force blocks the reading from seeing it. In any case, only 2 to 4 cards may be pulled per spread, and only when the need arises. Otherwise, what's the point of the spread? So now we're going into timing events. So there's this little quote thing, and I don't know who said this. It might have been on the website. So it says, time does not exist on the time does not exist on the inner planes. That might have been a typo. It might supposed to mean say in, and that was not good English either. But anyway, and the outcome of any situation may be influenced by free will as expressed by a multitude of factors, including the choices, decisions, actions, or even non-actions of the seeker. So let's read that again. Time does not exist in the inner planes or on the inner planes, and the outcome of any situation may be influenced by free will as expressed by a multitude of factors, to include, maybe that makes it easier to understand, the choices, decisions, actions, or even non-actions of the seeker. So that could be you or the person you're reading for. So time is always susceptible to change because of free will and the ripple effect that happens from our actions or non-actions, decisions, choices, etc. that we make or do not make that initiate the trickle/ripple effect, changing something from happening or not happening, happening sooner or happening later. So these are just hints or glimpses into the future. So that's what these timed readings are. Cards reveal time frames, not exact times. Again, if you're wanting something more specific, it's probably best to work with a spirit board, even a pendulum, because it can give you yay or nay answers. Doing card readings uses symbology and archetypes, so it gets a little, I don't want to say sketchy, but it's a little more general, and you have to figure out how to make it specific using your intuition and your knowledge of the situation at hand. Results can fall anywhere before or after the time frame shared. And when it says shared, I'm talking about like what's revealed in the reading. The 5 stages of manifestation. So this puts things typically. This puts things in the order that I have the elements, but I have I don't want to say rearranged because it's still within the same cycle, but it's just typically I start with air first, but because of the types of manifestation and how I correspond them to the elements, the 5 elements, I move things that would have been at the back to the front. So typically I say air, water, earth, fire, and spirit. And the reason why I put spirit at the end is because it can cycle back to air. Air is breath of life, fire is transformation, spirit, and I connect mind to air, body to earth, soul to water, and our spirit to fire. So spirit can go to fire, but it also, when you're talking about spirit in a general sense, so like human spirit can be connected to more to the fire side, whereas divine spirit can be connected to the air side, where it's about thoughts and spoken word and evocation, etc., etc. And so that's why I feel it can sway in both directions and it cycles very nicely. However, in this stage, I have it spirit, fire, air. Did I say that right? Spirit, fire, air, water, earth. And these correspond in the same order to thought, passion, speech, emotion, manifestation. And so thought and passion can kind of sound like a repetition of, so like thought and speech are connected to air, so it can kind of sound like a repetition of that. And passion and emotion can sound like a repetition of water. However, there's a difference. So when you're thinking, or when you have the initial thought, it's the seed. And I also attribute, when we're talking about, little side note, plant correspondences to the 5 basic elements. Seeds correspond to spirit. Leaves correspond to fire. The flowers correspond to air. The stems correspond to water, and the roots correspond to earth. And the reason why is because the leaves are the things that are mainly green, based on the chlorophyll chemical reaction when the sun, which is a ball of fire, hits the leaves and collects that sun energy, that fire energy. The flowers produce the smell, which is a nose, which we breathe in air, and the scent travels through the air that we breathe. Water travels through the stem to the leaves, to the blossom, obviously from the roots. The roots are touching the soil, the dirt, the earth. And then the seeds are the source of creation, just like spirit is the source of creation. Now, going back to the 5 stages of manifestation, thought is the source of all manifestation. And even in science-based things, you'll learn that they say that the mind controls everything. That's why when you get shot in the head, you're more likely to die. You die faster by getting shot in the head than you do in the jugular. In the jugular, you still live for about, I think it's 5 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds, give or take, maybe 10 tops. That sounds a little long, but I'm not entirely sure of the time. Even getting shot in the heart, you'll still live typically a little longer than getting shot in the head. If you get shot in the head, especially just right, anywhere between like the eye region and above, so anywhere within this region, you will pretty much die immediately. Oof, itch. So the brain is a very powerful force, and this is the initial creation process. Passion. The passion is what keeps it alive. The fire, especially, and this is why I like to correspond it to the spirit of the human, because of the internal flame, the thing that keeps you driven. So you can have a thought, but it doesn't reach passion. If it's not something you're passionate about, you don't move forward with it. Then we go into speech, air. This is where you become so passionate that you want it to become a physical thing, and you talk to others about it. You talk about it to yourself, speaking out loud, so you can hear your thoughts and think and ponder more deeply, and share it with others who might have resources to help make it happen. Then we go into the emotion. The emotion, because usually when you're speaking, you're still bringing the thought, and you're still bringing the passion into your speech, and you're evoking, especially if you're talking to others, emotional response, being connected to this thing that you wish to make manifest. And now we're getting into the production, also manifestation. So this is now things are getting done and being productive, and it results into it being manifested and completed on the physical plane. So, now that that's described, there are time cards. So this is the time card table that I will read to you. It breaks it down into suits, symbolism, speed, strength, and time frames. So, where are my aces? Those are not my aces. We'll use that one. And those. And I need my aces. What did I do with them? Okay. So when it comes to the court cards, I just grabbed all the diamond ones. It's not to mean only diamonds. It includes the other suits. But I didn't want to grab all the suits. So ignore the diamonds on the court cards. That's not where the suits come into play. When I'm showing you the aces, that's when the suits are coming into play. Okay, so disregard this as an ace card and just pay attention to the suits. When it comes to the court cards, disregard the suit, just pay attention to the specific court card. Okay, so diamonds. Oh, I probably should have let you know, you probably need to take notes or rewatch this if you're really wanting to use this method or learn something from it, because you can probably get really confused with all the information I'm giving you. So feel free to take this in doses or do an intermission, even though we're almost done. Yeah, we're almost done. Well, maybe not. Relatively done? Yeah, we're actually almost done. Sorry, y'all. Y'all know I love to make informative, jam-packed videos and stuff like that. So, moving on. I was about to say Aquarius. Diamonds. The suit of diamonds symbolizes speed, chi, and thought. And the speed it's the fastest. The strength is the weakest. And I have the fraction 1/4, and I don't remember why. I probably need to look at that website again to understand that. I guess it's the quarter of the possible strength. And the time frame would be seconds and minutes. Okay. This symbolizes action, progress, and momentum. This is fast. It's weak, but not the weakest. Okay, so this was fastest, this is fast. This is weakest with a quarter of, so it's like a quarter strength, I guess is what it was. And then this is half strength, so it's weak, but not weakest. And this is fast, fastest, fast, weakest, weak. So we're getting a little stronger, but not really strong just yet. And this one is hours and days. I should let you know that this is my specific time card table. If you're researching, you might get similarities, but I don't think you'll find the exact same one. Peace, leisure, and slow and steady is what it's symbolizing. These should help you if you remember the symbolism, it should help trickle down what the speed is, what the strength is, and then the time frame. So this is slow, and this is strong. So now we're at like 3/4 strength. And this would be weeks and months. This is obstacles and setbacks. Sorry, y'all. Obstacles, setbacks, and problems. So this is going to be the slowest. So as you can see, things that you should probably, if you don't already know, chi takes, or energy, takes the path of least resistance. So the more resistance there is, the slower something is. And if there is resistance, it's a strong thing that's slowing down the force of chi, or energy. Whereas it can be, if there's least resistance, that means resistance is weak or non-existent. Therefore, the chi can flow quickly. I think you're starting to piece it together. So this is the strongest, or you can just say stronger, and this means years. So that's the time frame. And when we go into the Joker and court cards can okay, let's do the symbolism for the Joker first. This is free will factors of others. Court cards say the ball is in your court. Court cards, the ball is in your court. So Jokers are pranksters, so this is out of your control. It can, free will factors of others that influence what's going on. So they're both, the speed is variable. It can be slow, fast, it can be slowest, it can be the fastest. It's either up to you or up to someone else. That's the difference here. They're both the strongest because of how, they're the strongest because they're variable in different ways. As I said, this is you, this is others. When it comes to the Joker, because it's about others, the free will factors of others, the time is unknown because you're not in control. When it's a court card, the time can be any time because it's in your court, it's in your hands to decide when to make it happen. So I do have little stars next to Joker and court cards, and a Joker at the end overrides the other 4 suit cards. So if you're doing a time type of reading, oops, where'd it go? And you're trying to figure out how long something's going to take. If you have a Joker in your spread, so let's say you have, that's not a really good idea. Hold on, y'all. Okay. So let's say you have this as your spread, okay, for your time reading. I don't know if I say to pull 3 cards. Oh, it's actually 5 cards. Let me pull 2 more. Okay, so these are your cards, and you get the 5th card. The 5th card is upside down. The 5th card is a Joker. This overrides all of that because, as I said earlier, the strength of this card is the strongest, so it overrides all the others. Even though you have black suit cards, mostly black suit cards, and the black suits have stronger strength than the red suits, the Joker and the court cards are stronger than the strongest suit is spades, and you only have 1 of those anyway. But this one and the court cards are stronger even than the spades. So this overrides that, and you would just go with this. And this says the time is unknown. Now, Joker is anywhere else, ignore it and read the others. Okay, so if this is anywhere else in the reading, not the end, the way that you're seeing this is that the end card is functioning as the outcome, okay? And it'll make more sense as I read the notes to you. So if this is anywhere else, just disregard the card because it doesn't hold as much weight, okay? A court card at the end overrides the other 4 suit cards, again, because it's the strongest. However, the 4th suit card, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is your court card, so this overrides it. So the Joker overrides it completely because it's out of your control. This court card is in your control, so it doesn't completely override it, and so you can use this as information. So this happened to be the 4th suit card. This gives a possible time frame. So this is saying that the ball is in your court, so it can happen anytime, but this is giving you an idea that it's probably going to happen within 3 years. But it could happen sooner based on decisions and choices you make. The suit of the court card reveals the personality trait that is possessed by the seeker. Oh, hold on. The suit of the court card, in this case it's a diamond, reveals the personality trait that, if possessed by the seeker, will either help or hinder the manifestation. So red suits help, black suits hinder. Now if we go back to the earlier in this video when I was talking to you about the symbolism of the suits, and I said that for diamonds, the personality type is ambitious, impatient, and outgoing, and business-like. Okay? So this is a go-getter, but can sometimes also be a little hasty. That's where the impatient part plays in. So, and then the red hearts is instinctive, intuitive, cheerful, and friendly. So you can see those are desirable positive traits, which is why red suits are automatically labeled as help. So this is, if you get a red suit court card, based off of that sentence I just told you about the seeker possessing that personality, if it's a red suit court card, it's automatically going to help the situation and make it go a little faster. Hold on. That was not the correct word. Yes, actually it was. It's going to make it go a little faster because there's weak resistance. So remember when I was talking to you about the in the chart and I talked about strength, weakest and strongest and all that, that's in reference to the resistance, if there is or is not any resistance. Red suits indicate that there's little to no resistance. Black suits indicate that there is resistance and to what degree there is. Joker and court cards indicate that there's a potential of a lot of resistance, but there's also potential of there being no resistance. Okay, so black suits, when the pip cards automatically are hinders, and that's because trefoils have the shy but helpful type of personality type. And while it's great to be helpful, if you're shy, you're not necessarily as much of a go-getter. You're a little more reserved and passive, which isn't really good on making something manifest and getting work done. And with the spades, it's cool, logical, inner self is of importance. So that's also you can kind of be a little too focused and too much in your mind and end up not taking action. If a court card is elsewhere, read it like a suit card and either add or subtract one increment of its time according to its strength towards the repeat card. If a court card is elsewhere, read it like a suit card. So that would mean read it like a diamonds. And either add or subtract one increment of its time. Oh, read it like, okay, this is where the fractions come into play. So since this is a diamond, and so you have 1, 2, 3 is the court card, 4, 5. So, and since it's not at the end, you would read it as a diamonds, okay? And diamonds are the fastest and in speed and the weakest in strength because there's the least resistance. So that's where the fraction comes into play. So you would, this is what you do more towards the end, but since I was talking about court cards, that's why I wrote it here. So this is why it's a little confusing. So you would add or subtract one increment of its time, and since it's a diamonds, that's 1/4. If it was hearts, it'd be 1/2. If it was trefoils, it'd be 3/4. If it's spades, it'd be 1. And you would, according to its strength, towards the repeat card. And I think the repeat card gets talked about a little earlier, so we'll put a pause on that right now. So now this is the process. So you shuffle 5 times for the 5 elements / 5 stages of manifestation. So that's the symbology that you're going for. Whilst asking, when will blank happen? Cast 5 cards, again, for the symbology of the 5 stages of manifestation. So it symbolizes the first card's thought, passion, speech, emotion, manifestation. That's why the last card's the most important, because this is talking about the actual manifestation. Excuse me. Cast 5 cards and pay close attention to the end card, for it holds the most weight. End card, aka, is the manifestation card, aka the 5th card, the last card in the spread. Refer to the time cards table, what I said earlier in this section, to help calculate the result. If the end card is a suit card, meaning it's a pip card, so anything from ace to 10, yeah. Card is a suit card, and its suit is repeated in the spread, then add 1 increment of time according to its strength. let's look at our spread real quick. So what repeated suits do we have? We have 2 spades. If the end card, and it happens to be an end card, the 3 of spades is our end card, and then the 8 of spades is right before it. So this is saying if the end card is a suit card and its suit is repeated in the spread, then add 1 increment of its time according to its strength. So this is saying, so what is this time frame for spades? It's years. So this is saying it's 3 years. So you add 1 quarter. Nope. You add 1. So you'd add 1 more year. Right? I think that's what it is. According to its speed. Yes. If the other suits differ, so meaning there's no, so this is still the end card. The 3 of spades is still the end card, but there's no more no spades in the spread, so there's no repeated suits. If the other suits differ, which they do, then subtract 1 increment of time according to its strength. Oh, good, so give an example. For example, we have 3 of spades. so the 3 of spades is the suit end card, and let me get these cards out to help with the, oh good, it uses a 9 of diamonds. And there's an ace of hearts, I need that, and a 2 of spades. Perfect. Okay. Oh, 6 of trefoils, I need that one. Okay, so this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So how do we want to put this? So I'll just put it in reverse order. So that's 6, 9. Why do I have a 3? Oh, that's the end card. Ace, 2, and there we go. Okay, so this is the example reading of a time spread. So the end suit card happens to be the 3 of spades, and its suit is repeated. It's a 2. And spades signify years, and the end card, if it's a pip, you always go with the number. So ace is 1, and then you have 2 through 10. So that would be, since it's spades, you would say 3 years or 10 years, etc. Now with repeated cards, which I mentioned earlier, are the suits that are repeated. The same. How am I trying to phrase this? It's the suit that the end card is, but repeated within 1 or more of the 4 cards in the spread. I hope that made sense. However, you do not pay attention to the number of the card. It's automatically a 1, okay? So this means that it's 3 years plus 1 year, okay? Because as I mentioned earlier, the order was to add 1 increment of time, and spades is a year, and since it's in each card that has the repeated suit is 1 of that time frame. The ace of hearts, okay, so since why did I say add or subtract? Did I say that? Oh, I think I might have read it. I'm going to reread it because I feel like I read that wrong. Refer to the time cards table to help calculate the result. If the end card is a suit card, which it is, and the suit is repeated in the spread, then add 1 increment of time according to its strength, according to the suit's strength, which you get, I probably should have worded that differently, according to the suit's time frame. So like I said, spades is years. If the other suits differ, then subtract 1 increment of time according to the suits And okay, so that's why we subtract these increments of time, but add this increment of time, because this increment of time is of the same suit, so it's the same time frame, so we're adding onto it, whereas these are differing, so they're opposing that, okay? And so there is a little math here. So this is probably more advanced Cartomancy. So this is the initial answer. It's saying 3 years, and this is saying that it's going to be actually 4 years. However, we have 3 cards that are subtracting time from that 4 years. So ooh. Okay, this is also, I think this is actually where the fractions come into play. So if you remember, the diamonds had 1/4 as the fraction, hearts had 1/2, the trefoils had 3/4, and the spades had 1. So that's what the strength is talking about. So it's talking about, when it said according to strength, it's talking about those fractions plus the time frames. So that's why this is 1 year. If the repeat card was diamonds, okay, then it would be, what's the time frame for diamonds? The time frame is seconds and minutes, and the strength is 1/4. So this would be either 1/4 of a second or 1/4 of a minute. What is 1/4 of a minute? A minute is 60 seconds. So that means it's 15 seconds, and 1/4 of a second is some type of microsecond or millisecond. That's what it is, millisecond. But so that's kind of how you break it up. I need to get my order again. Ace, 9, and 6. Okay, so now, referring to that timetable chart, which gives you the fractions as well as the time frames, you will turn these cards into time frames. So, the Ace of Hearts is, the hearts are half of hours or half of days. And since, oh, let me read this because this kind of helps you. So there's a little notation here that lets you know when to pick the higher time frame or the lesser time frame. For example, diamonds has seconds and minutes as a timer. Well, when do you pick it? This notation lets you know. If the repeat card is a black suit, use the highest time frame when subtracting opposing cards. If it's a red suit, use the lowest time frame. And that's because, what did I say earlier? Red suits are fast, black suits are slow. So, and this is when you're focusing on the repeat card, not the end card, okay? If you need me to do another video explaining the time frames solely, let me know and I'll do another one. So, this is half a day because it's a black suit, so we're using the days. So, okay. So, let's just look at this card. So, the suit, we're not caring about the number. It doesn't hold significance in this sense. So, the suit is, the strength is half strength. And since the repeat card was a black suit, we're going to use the larger time frame, which the two time frames are hours and days, so we're going to be using days because of it's a heart. And this is going to be half of a day. So right now we're marking, in accordance to our card math, we have 3 years, because this is the outcome end card, which holds the most significance. So we have 3 years because of it being a spade card, and 3 years because it's a 3. That's the only time you focus on the number of the card. Your repeat card happens to be a 2 of spades. Disregard the 2, we don't care. It has the spades, it's a repeat card. So we're adding 1 increment of time, according to its strength and time frame. Spades works with years, so we're adding X number of years to the 3 years. The strength of spades is 1, so it's a whole year that we're adding, and that's why it becomes 4 years. If it was something else, then it would be 3/4 of a blank time frame, or half of a blank time frame. I'm hoping that this is starting to make sense. Like with the hearts has half of the time frame, and the time frame is days or weeks, right? Oh, excuse me, hours or days, I'm sorry. And because these are black suits, as I said, we're using the larger time frame. So, what is half of a day? Half of a day is 12 hours. So, right now we have 3 years plus 1 year minus 12 hours, because it's half of a day. Excuse me, half of a day. Okay? Whew. The next card is a 9 of diamonds. Disregard the number. We don't care if it's a 9 or a 7 or what. But the strength is 1/4. And the highest value of time for diamonds is minutes. So we're going to be using that. And what's 1/4 of a minute? That equals 15 seconds. So we're now subtracting 15 seconds from the 3 years plus the 1 year minus the 12 hours. And so it's going to be 3 years plus 1 year minus 12 hours minus 15 seconds. And the last card we have is a 6 of clubs. Don't care about the 6. Excuse me, trefoils. Trefoils have a 3/4 strength. And we're using, this is weeks or months, so we're using the months. What's 3/4 of a month? A month is roughly 4 weeks. And since we're doing 3/4 of that, that would be 3 weeks. So we're subtracting 3 years plus, so the math problem is 3 years plus 1 year minus 12 hours, which is half of a day, which is 24 hours, minus 1/4 of a minute, which is 15 seconds, minus 3/4 of 1 month, which is 3 weeks. We're subtracting that all from what happens to be 4 years, okay? So when we start, you know when you do those cross multiplying, like with parentheses problems that kind of like bring values together and kind of condense the math problem, that's what we're going to be doing. If you want to take a screenshot because you visually understand it better, that's the whole math problem right there, and this is the answer. Okay? And like I said, if you're confused, I'll do another video specifically talking about playing card divination with time. So when we do all that subtraction, we get, I need to move that 8 of spades because that's confusing me. So you know when you're doing fractions and you're finding the common denominator, you're doing that in this as well. So 3 years is this card right here, which was our end card, which holds the most significance, which is why we focus on the 3 that's on the card, and the spade's telling us that it's years. So that's our outcome. But we had a repeat of the 2 of spades. We disregard the 2 because it's not an end card, but it is repeating the suit. So we add 1 increment of time since it's likeness with the suits. So that turned this into 4 years. So now, oh, excuse me, we don't add this just yet. So just put the 3 years aside. We will come back to it later and focus on this 1 year, okay? This card is symbolizing that we're adding 1 year to this. However, we have countering time that's taking away from this year. So what we do, we look at what correlates it. So we have 1 year and we see that the weeks is the highest value at this point. And so we turn 1 year into, I was about to say 12 weeks. I'm glad I looked at this because that was totally wrong. So we turn 1 year into 12 months. And we subtract the 3 weeks from the 12 months, which equals 1 year. And then we get 11 months plus 1 week, because the average is 4 weeks per month, okay? Now, if you want to, you can times 12 by 4, which is equivalent to the 4 weeks per month. That would give you 48 weeks. And you subtract that and you get 45 weeks, and then you can convert that, and it should give you 11 months plus 1 week. So then we take the next highest increment of time, which is the half a day, which is 12 hours, and we subtract that from the 11 months and 1 week. And the way that we do, again, we break it down into likeness. And I don't have that written down, but doing that math, we get 11 months and 6 days and 12 hours. Okay, and that's because 1 week is 7 days and 1 day is 24 hours. And if you subtract the 12 hours from one of those days, you get 12 hours left. You subtracted one of those days from the week, so you have 6 days left, and you still have those 12 hours of what would have been the 7th day, okay? And so now we subtract the last increment, which is 15 seconds, which is 1/4 of a minute, and we subtract that from the 12 hours that remains from that 7th day, and that gives us a total of 3 years, 11 months, 6 days, 11 hours, 59 minutes, and 45 seconds. So, if you wanted to, you could take that, calculate it in the future in accordance to when you started your reading. This would be the time that you lay your 5th card down. So you would look at the time that you lay your 5th card down, and then you would take this answer, or whatever answer you get according to your reading, and you would project that into the future to figure out what day it would be, and what month, what season, what year, what time of the day, and that would be relatively when the manifestation would happen. Now, if you remember earlier when I was talking about this, I said that these readings are just hints or glimpses into the future. The cards reveal time frames, not exact times. Even though you're getting an exact time, there's still a possibility of things changing over time, especially when you get these long readings. Okay, so moving on. So the next notation I have is when revealing the end result to the seeker, that being 3 years, 11 months, 6 days, 11 hours, 59 minutes, and 45 seconds. In this case, according to the example, you would say as follows. It looks to me like it will happen within answer, time frame. And you say time frame. Even though you're giving a specific time, you're saying that look around this time, pay attention. So, and you could say either sooner or later. And so that could be seconds sooner, it can be minutes sooner, it can be hours sooner, it can be days or even months sooner. But remember, in this example, your manifestation card, your end card, was the 3 of spades. So it's not going to happen more than 3 years. But it could happen sooner than the 11 months, or sooner than the 11 months and 6 days, or the 11 hours, or whatever the following trailing times were, okay? Yeah, so I'm not going to go into the shuffling because I want to get the zodiac information first, plus this shuffling is a little messy in the notes department. But I think that's more than enough of information. This is almost 2 hours talking about it now. I am going to come back and make a video talking about sigil magic and the sigils that I specifically used whilst in boot camp. And I'm actually going to be using them again soon. But I hope that you found this informative. I hope you found it useful. I hope it resonates with you. Like I said, if you have any questions, I always have my email in the description box. You can always message me on here. You can also comment any questions you have. I also have my social medias that you can click on and follow and message me on there, and I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. I always get back to people. I might get back to you a little late because I get a little, it gets active over here, and I don't believe in busy, but I do get very active, and I sometimes I have to put my focus elsewhere, but I always will come back and answer to the best of my ability. There's actually some comments that I need to look at today, so I'm going to be doing that, answering some today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, abundant and eternal blessings. Mwah.